So welcome everyone to the Preschool Mindfulness Summit. Today our guest is Jennifer Miller. I'm really excited that she's come back on the summit again. She's the founder of Confident Parents, Confident Kids, and the author of this book by the same name, which I highly recommend. She has been speaking and teaching about emotional intelligence with adults and with kids for many, many years now, I think 25 years. And she's worked with PBS Kids, NBC Parent Toolkit, Highlights for Children, and she just does so many wonderful things. She's an action researcher, an education consultant, and just an all-round amazing person in the field. So really excited to have her here today. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Helen. I'm so excited about our conversation today. Preschool mindfulness is a near and dear subject, so I'm so thrilled to talk with you.
Thanks. So we'll have all Jennifer's contact details, her website, and she's really kindly given us some resources. There's the Melodic Themes Temperament Assessment, which I think she's going to talk to us about later on. And she's also got lots of materials and resources on her website that you can check out as well. So Jennifer, let's start by talking a little bit about confidence and how do parents and educators learn about children's temperaments in a way that can help them build up their confidence?
Well, you know, I've studied confidence a lot. I named my blog before I started studying confidence really because I wanted to learn how to be a confident parent myself and figured other people would be interested too. But as I surveyed parents, over and again, parents kept saying, yes, confidence is what we care about. And so I began looking at how do we become confident as adults and how do we raise confident kids. And one of the factors that came up consistently was children's temperament. And so temperament is basically their natural born emotional reflexes. It's kind of their go-to default setting. And we all have different default settings in families. Typically, they are very different within families. And because of that, they can really be a source of conflict in families. And so I think understanding temperament as a parent can help us really be more confident and competent in responding to our children's kind of automatic responses to new people, new situations, to difficult challenges. We can identify what their typical temperament is, and then realize that all temperaments are rigged for children's survival and also their thriving, right?
Yeah.
And so if we treat them as an asset, then we can build from their strengths and really support where they are. No amount of scolding is going to change our child's default setting. And in fact, if we try to change their default setting, a child is going to begin to say, what's wrong with me? And feel shameful about their automatic reactions. So I think it's really worthwhile to get to know your child's temperaments. And if you have multiples, what each of your children's default settings are, and then also what your default setting is and how that interplay works out.
Yeah, yes, really important discussion, and I think we see it in schools too with teachers sometimes, not working with with a child's temperament. And as you said, you can't change their default temperament. So tell us a little bit about what the range of temperaments are, and then maybe how we can use those temperaments as a strength, whatever they might be.
Absolutely, yeah. So there in the research, depending on what research you look at, there are between 5 and 9 temperaments identified. And in my book, I talk about 7 really distinct temperaments. So, one of them is, are you eager to approach a new person or new situation, or do you tend to withdraw? Another one is when you have a challenge, are you patient or are you easily frustrated? Another one is your mood. Do you tend to kind of go into things with a pleasant attitude, or do you tend toward maybe caution or grumpiness even? So we all kind of have a go-to mood. Another is intensity level. What level of emotional intensity do we experience life? And maybe our child is unflappable, or maybe they're really emotionally intense and they experience things with their whole body and soul every time there's a new encounter. So I think that's 5. Attention span is another. How long can a child focus on something, and then when do they need to, shift their attention? So that's another temperament. I'm looking at my cheat sheet here to make sure I'm getting all of them. The last one is sensory sensitivity.
Okay.
So, parents will talk to me, and teachers too, about children being bothered by seams or tags. Well, that's a touch sensitivity. And my son he's very sensitive with sounds. You go into a loud movie theater, a loud concert, and he's very sensitive with sounds. So, and that can be with taste. It can be with sights. So, what is your level of sensory sensitivity? So you can see these emotional default settings. If you think about yourself or you think about your child, they can be very, very different, but they do impact your everyday life. And as a teacher in the classroom, when you have maybe 12 students, 15 students, 20 students, depending on how big your preschool classroom is, right? Your children are going to respond to new activities, new stimulus in very different ways. And some of them may not want to interact with a sand table that's brand new to the room and hang back, even though you're very excited about it and you want to encourage them to dive in. But how can we look at those temperaments and support a child in experiencing things in ways where they're not fearful or shameful about how they're reacting, but we're guiding them to experience things in the way that they need to.
Yeah, really, really interesting. So can you give us some examples from those different temperaments, maybe of how we can use them as a strength in the classroom or at home for parents watching?
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example of Annette. She's somebody who's written into the blog as a regular kind of follower and thoughtful parent and educator. And she talked about her son and how she kind of discovered his temperaments. She said she's a very outgoing person. She lights up a room. She's very kind and warm and engaging. And she would take him to the store with her, and he would hide behind her back. And she would get very frustrated and say hello, be polite to the cashier. She's trying to talk to you. Right. And he would start to cry. Sometimes there would be a scene. He'd get really, really upset. the more she pushed. And she really had to kind of take a step back and say, what is happening, and why is he not able to, and I think she started worrying about, is he not a kind kid? Is he not going to be social? You project all these worries about a child's future. But then she started reading about children who tend toward introversion, who are cautious, who approach new people and situations slowly. And she started kind of following his lead more and apologizing for his behavior less. And what she noticed was that he would melt down less, that he would cry less, because she was really allowing him to approach new people and situations at the slower pace that he really needed to. And I think in preschool, I love the idea of dry runs in preschool. In other words, let's try things out first before we do the actual big experience. So let's walk down to the cafeteria before we have our first lunch in the cafeteria, and let's just look around and meet the staff and see what's going on, see what kind of food they're going to put out that day. Dry runs with preschoolers are a wonderful opportunity to experience a new environment or a new person with some of the pressure lifted, so that this is just practice. This isn't the real thing, but we're taking in the environment. We're getting a sense of it first before we need to actually maybe go to school for the day or, have these new big experiences.
Yeah, I think that is so important. And I mean, lots of things that you said, but we often see, I think, in classrooms where everybody has to do this, and some kids just don't want to, or I mean, with parents, like the whole "don't be shy, go and just try it, just do it," and some kids really are like fearful of that, or don't want to, or need more time, as you said. So yeah, it's a really interesting discussion. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about as adults, as parents, as teachers, about how can maybe looking at our own temperament help how we work with the children?
Well, I think looking at our own temperament is really important, because sometimes it will help reveal some of our triggers, why we become annoyed with our children. For example, I did a workshop a few weeks ago with a group of parents, and 2 days later, the dad came up to me and said, I was we had done an assessment. We had done the melodic themes assessment. He had mapped out his own temperament, and he had mapped out his child's. And then they had the next morning gone through their typical get ready for school morning routine. And she was just scattered all over the place. Her focus was everywhere. Right. And he was really frustrated. And this is not atypical. He often gets very frustrated with her, him trying to say, it's time to get on your shoes. It's time to get on your shoes. And, she's all over the place. What he said is that after mapping out his own temperament, he had the aha, oh my goodness, she's just like me. And this is why because I don't like that about myself. I want to be able to really focus, get in the flow, and get through the morning smoothly. But I recognize in her what I struggle with in myself. So, so sometimes it can be that kind of trigger, too similar, right? But then, in another way, it can be the differences, like an extroverted mom and an introverted child. Or in fact, I know a teacher who is very introverted and really needs some quiet time, some downtime, and more of a pacing of interaction during the day. And so when kids are needing her attention and in her face a lot, she has to breathe more. And she has to really work on her mindfulness strategies in order to stay calm and patient and be responsive to her students' needs. So I think there is a real elevated level of self-awareness that we are able to gain when we analyze our own temperaments and figure out, like, this can be an asset in the classroom. I can model my own self-control and deep breathing. I can pause and show how that's really important, related to my own emotional reflexes, and use it again as an asset and as a teaching tool with students.
Yeah, I think, this discussion is so important, and it's missing a lot of times. And just thinking about it and talking about it and reflecting on it, I think will raise so many issues and raise a lot of awareness. So, Jennifer, tell us a little bit. You touched on how mindfulness relates to these temperaments and things. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and especially how it might relate with to our preschool children or preschool classes?
Absolutely. So because temperament does relate to adult self-awareness and preschoolers growing self-awareness, I think preschoolers are just at the very beginning of figuring out or identifying what they're feeling, understanding feelings, being able to label feelings, and so they're really learning, or at the point where they're able to learn that when I'm mad, I can say I'm angry. They need us to help them with those labels and develop that feelings vocabulary, and maybe not assume that we know, but ask them, you look angry, is that right? So that we're helping them develop that feelings vocabulary. And then from there, identify what body sensations are going on in that moment. Is your heart beating fast? Your face looks red. Is that a sign that you're angry? So making that mind-body connection, again, helping them with self-awareness. And then, for children who maybe they are easily frustrated by a new challenge, how do we help them with that? Because certainly they're going to face those challenges in kindergarten, in first grade, in second grade, where they're going to run up against frustrations with new challenges. So how can we help them through that emotional reflex that they have, maybe to give up quickly? So maybe we can take some deep breaths with them when they're facing something. Maybe we can help them go slowly and walk through the process with them slowly, so that we give plenty of pause and wait time so that they can experience it how they need to and approach it how they need to. Take some of the fear out of the new experiences.
Yeah, I love that. So Jennifer, tell us about, so you've given this free PDF, which will be in Jennifer's speaker bio below, which is melodic theme scorecard. So tell us how it works. And
well, I call it melodic themes. There's a music metaphor that runs throughout my book, and the idea is that if the vocal cords are the musical instrument of the body, then our emotions are the instrument of the body, mind, and spirit. And if we can have a trumpet sitting on our shelf as a decoration and never learn to use it. But if we train ourselves and our children in their emotions and how to self-express through their emotions, their life is deeply enriched. they understand themselves better, and they can create deeper relationships. So, so the melodic themes is really, what is your child's melodic theme? How do they respond emotionally when encountering new situations, new people? So the assessment gives you each of those 7 areas to look at, and it offers you a chance to look at yourself on each of those 7 domains, and then also to look at your children, or if you're a teacher, to analyze your students and understand your students.
Yeah, great tool. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing all those amazing ideas and tools, and just bringing awareness, I think, to this conversation that's so important. And I think whether you're a parent or a classroom teacher, you know, it'll be something to really think about how we work with kids and look at these different temperaments in ourselves and in the children. I just want to remind everyone about Jennifer's book. I forgot to mention at the beginning, she's also an amazing illustrator and drew all the pictures in the book. Let me see if I can just find some. You can see some of the amazing illustrations, but she also has them on her blog, which is a really great blog that I recommend you check out as well. So we'll have all the links to all of that stuff in Jennifer's speaker bio. And I just want to say thanks again, Jennifer, for joining us today.
Helen, what a joy. Thank you so much for all the goodness that you put into the world. I admire your work and really appreciate being a part of your conferences.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.